So let's begin by sitting upright. The head is suspended from above, body relaxed and at ease. Think of your skeleton being pulled up through your crown, and the flesh, all the soft tissues in the body, sinking down into the ground following the pull of gravity. Let's take a few deep, long, comfortable breaths. Let the breathing slowly sink down into the belly. Slowly release the tension of your eyes. Let your eyes become soft. Receiving yourself with kindness. With compassion. Give your mind and your body space. Allow them to do whatever they want. Various sensations and feelings, let them be. Just as they are. There's nothing to change about them. They don't have to be controlled. The same goes for your mind, with all of its thoughts, ideas. Just let it flow, let it do whatever it wants. And in this atmosphere where you're sitting here, and you're breathing slowly and comfortably, and you're giving yourself space to settle down, you'll notice that all the stress of the day gradually fades away. The buzzing in the body and in the mind slows down. All by itself. Breathing in, saturate the body with your mind, with consciousness. Just feeling the body, becoming aware of it. As you're breathing out, release all the various knots, the points of tension that may be there throughout your body. Breathing in, feeling. Breathing out, softening, letting go. Just for this one single breath, feel the body fully as you breathe in. You'll let go of all the tension in your body as you breathe out. Let it melt, dissolve, evaporate. Just for this one breath. And with each breath, you can start anew. Each breath is one meditation session. Now when you breathe out, you want to have this nice wave of relaxation that goes from the crown of your head down into your face, the neck, the shoulders and arms, heart and your chest, the solar plexus, the belly, and finally the legs. So you can let that wave run through your body in the same speed that you're breathing out. From the crown of your head all the way down into the seat. And we let go of the previous exercise. Become aware of the play of your senses, especially the sense of hearing, the sense of feeling, and the sense of thinking. Notice how your attention naturally, effortlessly moves from feeling to feeling, from feeling to thinking, from thinking to thinking, and from thinking to hearing. What am I aware of right now? You kind of want to ask yourself this silent question. Where is my attention right now, right this second? See if you can remain aware of the movements of your attention. You don't need to control anything. You don't need to build or destroy anything. You simply need to know what is happening while it is happening. Knowing also your emotional responses to what is happening. Liking, not liking, wanting, not wanting. Boredom, anger, impatience. Whatever state you find yourself in, simply allow that to be without interfering, knowing it for what it is. Observing how the energy of each emotional state moves through your body naturally. See what it does while it moves. What's the characteristic of the feeling? Is it hot? Is it cold? Fast or slow? Expanding or contracting? Rising? Sinking? Heavy or light? And let your attention gradually go to the breath. Just only the sensation of breathing. As you breathe in, knowing that you're breathing in. As you're breathing out, knowing that you're breathing out. There is something in your body that tells you whether you're breathing in or out. Just let your mind rest there. Keeping the breath in mind, very gently. And again, we're just only working with this one breath. The breath before that doesn't matter, and the breath after that is just as irrelevant. See if you can detect when your in-breath begins and when it reaches its last moment. And of course, the same goes for the out-breath. Keeping it in mind, being aware of it, from the beginning to the end. Whenever you find your attention going elsewhere, very gently bring it back. Let your mind get absorbed in the breathing to a point where you can gradually feel that the body fades into the background. Giving way to a pleasant calmness. As a result of your concentration, you may begin to feel pleasant sensations arise in the body. If that's the case, you're going to allow them to spread out. Let your body be filled with this pleasant, comfortable breath. If you like, you can either just keep going or slowly come back and open your eyes, gently stretch yourself a little bit. All right, so good evening. It's nice to see all of you. I hope you enjoyed that. Had a good time settling down a little bit. Yeah, maybe today it's a good time to talk a little bit about the so-called 5 hindrances. I've touched upon this topic earlier as well, like I don't know how many sessions back, but it's always good to go through them again and again so to help you understand what you're dealing with in your meditation practice and actually what keeps you from going deeper into a state of meditation. So these 5 hindrances are, first of all, sensuality or sense desire. It's often translated as sense desire. Then the second one is ill will, or you can also say like a type of aversion that you feel in your meditation practice. And also in general, this is not just only about the meditation practice per se, this is also for our daily life. So this is obviously stuff that we deal with on a daily basis. Not only just when we sit down on the mat and try to have the mind collect into stillness. The third is sloth and torpor. I think we're all familiar with that one. Like just plain laziness, lack of energy, lethargy, feeling of kind of dullness in the mind. Heaviness, Then you have restlessness and remorse. And restlessness and remorse are both really the mind just being agitated, bouncing around a lot, your attention being very unstable. Just a general sense of buzziness within yourself. Most people don't notice restlessness unless it becomes very extreme. Well, most people don't notice, even in their meditation practice, they don't notice just how restless they are. But once you build a little bit,
Once the mind becomes a bit more collected, a bit more calm, you'll have a contrast. So you can see, oh, before that I've been much more restless. It comes in the couple with remorse, because remorse is one of the main triggers for restlessness. Basically unfinished business. There's things that you know you should be doing, but you haven't done them. Things that would have been good for you, but you didn't address them. And things that have been detrimental to you, that's what you were instead addressing. That's what you were doing instead of the good stuff. And there arises a subtle kind of remorse within ourselves. A feeling of actually being a bit disappointed in ourselves. For a lot of people, that can go quite deep to a point where they really don't like themselves at all. And so that's why meditators, when they're in the beginning of their path, very often have a hard time sitting still within their own body. They're not comfortable in their own skin. And that's not your typical body pains. It's much more that these body pains and the discomfort that you feel within your presence, within yourself, physically and mentally, is a result of actually not liking yourself. And not liking ourselves is directly going back to the way we behave, how we act, how we live our lives. And, well, the last one, but not least, is doubt. Also a very heavy hindrance on the path of meditation. So we have those 5 hindrances. Let's start with the first one. Sensuality. So sensuality or sense desire is basically being enchanted, obsessed with your senses. And in classic Buddhist teachings, for example, there's 6 senses that we talk about. These are your normal 5 senses that you all know, plus the sense of the intellect, or, the sense of having ideas, the mental sense, all the stuff that you do inside. That includes volition, that includes, desire, wanting, not wanting, and so on and so forth. So all the internal objects that you may have, they count for the 6th sense, you can say. So your obsession with sounds, smell, taste, tactile sensation, vision, and ideas, that enchantment with those 6 things, that being constantly drawn into that, the thinking about these things, that's sensuality. Quite obviously, that's a big hindrance, because it's basically your mind being drawn into the realm of your senses continuously, keeps it from collecting inwards. It keeps it from actually letting go of your body and transcending the body and finding true peace inside, true happiness. So why do you think, would you constantly think about the senses? About obtaining good smells, trying to stay away from bad smells, about obtaining good, like things in your ideas, like, oh, I want this new job, and once I have this new job, everything will be perfect in my life, or once I get married, or once I get divorced, whatever the idea. Why would we go into that? Why would we spend so much time, why would we invest so much energy in thinking about those things? Why?
For pleasure?
Exactly. You're looking for pleasure. And trying to stay away from the opposite of that, pain, right? It's all about pleasure and pain. It's basically a hope-fear process. And seeking pleasure, right now, right here. I want to feel good. I want to have nice ideas. I want to like myself. I want to love the world. But instead, I hate myself. I don't like what's going on right now. These are all these, getting lost in all these kind of ideas is about seeking pleasure, and of course, avoiding future pain and gaining future pleasures, making sure that this is the case. Any kind of worry or anxiety, fear, whatever you've ever had in your life, is essentially about future suffering, the possibility of suffering in the future. It's as simple as that. That's all we really fear. It's not, oh, I might not get this job, or I might be rejected, might not get the visa, might not catch the plane. It's not about these things. It's actually about your fear of the suffering that these things would cause you, and you don't want to experience that. So your thinking is all around trying to keep bad things from happening to you in the future. Or it's about trying to figure out how you could achieve that by thinking about past stuff that happened already, so you can bring that into the future. So it's a hope for happiness, the fear of suffering. The Buddha says in one of his teachings or discourses, he says that the thought that there are beautiful objects is what nourishes sensuality. It nourishes sensuality that has not yet arisen, as well as strengthening sensuality that has already arisen. And frequently giving unwise attention to that thought. There are beautiful objects. There is pleasure to be obtained in the world of the senses. So what you want to do about this is actually reflect on whether this is true or not. Can you actually obtain pleasure in the world of the senses? And what's the nature of this pleasure? What is it like? You only need to look back onto your own life and your own experiences. You will find that you've had a bunch of moments that were pleasurable. And what did they turn into? Just more stuff, right? It's never ending. How many times have you hoped for something to finish and then it finished, only to just give rise to another thing? So we never really had a real moment of respite or rest, a deep sense of contentment and a feeling of, yeah, I'm done now. I can now rest for good. But this is kind of something that we're after, like the feeling of a happy ending. As it goes with the old fairy tales, and they were happy ever after. That kind of thing, we're looking for that. Everyone is subconsciously and consciously looking for their fairy tale ending. Like, if I just get it all right, if I sort everything out properly, then that's how the mind goes. That's basically the only story of the mind. If I just, then. And the then is that feeling of, now I can finally put all my burdens down and I can finally truly relax and truly be at ease. I have to run no more. I have to fear and worry no more. I'm okay now. It's good now. And it just never happens. The only thing that keeps happening is just more things, more stuff, more up and down. So the way I think of it is it's more like a wheel that we are tied to, with the pleasure being on top of the wheel and the pain being at the bottom of the wheel. And that wheel is continuously spinning. It never stops spinning. It's just the nature of life. Things constantly change, evolve, always move. So you will never find, in the world of the senses at least, you will never find a still point that remains pleasurable, that remains good. That's the problem with the senses. Everything is subject to decay. Everything dies. Everything changes, transforms. So it's really unreliable. And it always leaves you with this kind of uncertainty. Will I actually be happy? Will I get my happy ending? Will I reach my goals, really? And if I reach them, what then? That's the concern, when people need to make these huge decisions in their lives. Should I should I stay married or should I get divorced, for example, yeah? Or should I move out of Singapore and take the job offer in the US? It's a great offer, but I'd have to leave behind family and friends and so forth. And so you have to make this decision. And you're really concerned to make, quote, the right decision. You want to make the right decision. What's the right decision? A decision that will keep you from suffering in the future. So you want to make sure that your decision will not bring you into suffering, but you can't be sure, ever. You can weigh all your options, but in the end you don't know what is going to happen. You don't know if your heart is still beating tonight. If you still wake up tomorrow morning, we don't even know that, if we're pretty honest, right? I'm not the one that controls my heartbeat. I just keep it beating until I have enough or something like this, but that's not the way it works, right? I'm not even the owner of my own life. I can't decide when it starts, when it ends. I can't decide if other people will bring problems to me. I don't know. I don't know if they hate me or love me or, so I can't influence that. And maybe if I try to influence that, it's me trying to influence that gets me into trouble. How often is that the case? Trying to make people like you and it makes everything worse. So you would, for example, think, I just make a person like me and in order to achieve that, I tell them a sweet little lie. And in the end, it makes everything really bad. Because the lie comes out into the open and, how many relationships start based on some cute little lies or more. And then later on, the relationship has already moved on and you're about to get married and then the lie comes out and it all goes down the drain. It's a huge drama because you could have told me before we were in a... There's a lot of movies about that too. It's the drama of us human beings. It's all because we want to make sure that we don't suffer, but we're so dull in our minds that we cannot see how our actions are causing us suffering or happiness. We just can't seem to understand what is a true cause of happiness or what is a true cause of suffering. So we're just kind of trying, like staggering around in the dark, grabbing things, hoping they won't sting us. This is not... and then thinking about it all day and night, it won't make it more certain either. You just don't know. This is freaky. It's scary to not know. So we want to avoid that fear of not knowing, so we just pretend that we know. So it's better than nothing, right? Someone has parked somewhere. Is that probably you? Or you?
Is your car that parked in front of the place?
Okay. See, it's unexpected suffering that just arises just out of nothing. You think you do all the right things. I park here, that's going to be nice, that's going to be good. And no, it's not. This is how life works. So thinking a lot about, your life options, and it's in order to make sure that they will make you happy, is completely misled. No thing will ever make you happy. No circumstance will ever make you happy. No person, no substance, no nothing, no job will ever make you happy. Happiness is not out there. It's not in the future, it's not in the past, it's not in things or people or something like that. If that was the case, well then go ahead and consume that thing that is supposed to make you happy. The more you consume it, the happier you should be getting. It's that simple. That would be the logic. If drinking water really makes you happy, then drink water. Make that the only thing in your life. You'll be just fine. If another person is supposed to make you happy, and that's very common. We make other people responsible for our own happiness, or our own suffering too. I think I'm suffering because of what you say. I'm suffering because of what you do. And then in our delusion, we try to shut down those people that apparently make me suffer. We cancel them. Let's get rid of them. It's completely deluded. Utterly deluded. But of course we can't help to see or to not see the blindness to see that we are the own maker of our own suffering. That's what we are. We are the maker of our own misery, and we are the maker of our own deliverance, happiness, our joy. That's your power. You could give that power away to others. We do all the time. I suffer because of them. No, you suffer because you can't help yourself. You don't know what you're doing. That's why you suffer. You never look inside of yourself, so you can't see how you make yourself suffer. But once you were to look inside, you could clearly see, oh wow, if I wouldn't think in those ways, I wouldn't experience that pain. Oh wow, if I wouldn't attach to that thing in the hopes, that thing to make me happy, I wouldn't suffer. I wouldn't be disappointed by the truth that things actually don't make me happy. I am either happy or I'm not. Things are just things. You know, if you're happy, things look nice. If you're unhappy, things look bad. It's not that things make you unhappy. It's more that they appear through the lens of your state. And your state is in your power. That is something that you can produce if you know how. You can be feeding yourself. And that's the job of the spiritual practitioner. If you really gain insight, you gain power. And with great power comes great responsibility. And the responsibility that we have is to look after ourselves skillfully, cleverly, well, kindly, compassionately. When you suffer, you need to look after yourself. You need to take care of suffering. You need to heal. You need to give yourself what it is that you need, not what it is that you want, but what you need. And that's difficult. It's much more easy to lose ourselves in the realm of the senses and blame circumstance, blame the other for our own misery and our own happiness. That's what sensuality as an obstacle really is. You're kind of blaming your senses, or you make them responsible to fulfill you. How could they? They won't. In fact, they will fail you. And then you will die. The big disappointment. If you place a lot of hope on your senses, you will be badly disappointed. That's why there exists religion or spirituality, these inner paths, because they offer an alternative. They offer something that transcends the senses. And that is why we practice meditation, so you can meet that which transcends your senses. So that's why sensuality is at the top of the list. This is the first, the most pervasive and powerful of the obstacles is that. Your investment in your senses. That can be overcome gradually if you kind of, I recommend something. I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information, but try to contemplate the downfall of the senses. In fact, that's what I've been doing on your behalf just in this session today. I just contemplated on the spot why it would be unskillful to get lost in this stuff. Because it won't give you what you're actually wanting. Would you invest a lot of energy and time into something that is guaranteed to not get you what you want? No, right? No questions asked even. Okay. Would you invest a lot of time in reintroducing pebbles as a payment source in society, like pebbles, as a way to pay a currency, and you make your own currency, the pebble currency, and you want to introduce this to society, and this is your life's work? Would you do that? Why not? It's pointless, right? It's a crazy endeavor. It's like, why would I? The energy it would take to convince all of society that pebbles should be reintroduced as our main currency. It's so much energy for nothing, but exactly that's what we're doing actually, just in a different form. It's just as crazy. We're making other things responsible for our own happiness, and then we run after them, chasing them, trying to get them to do as we want them to do. It's like trying to change the world so we don't have to suffer it. There's a saying which I like very much. It comes from a great Indian sage, Shantideva is his name. He says, there isn't enough leather to cover the surface of this world, so I don't step into thorns. But there is enough leather to cover my own feet, and it has the same effect. Right? So that's maybe a better example as the pebble thing. How much wasted energy trying to cover the entire world in leather so I don't have to suffer. And how entitled, how narcissistic would that actually be? Like everyone has to do and behave in exactly the way I want to because I don't want you to hurt me, okay? So please, all of you, you must change in accordance with my wishes. Sound familiar? Think modern society. That's a huge problem. This is going to roll into societies from now on. With all the youngsters growing up in these protected, safe environments, everyone catering to their wishes and their commands. No one telling them, no. You can't have that, you can't do that. No one giving them guidance, everyone busy and distracted. Doesn't look good. And that furthers more and more this kind of idea that I'm entitled to have the world follow my needs, my command, my wishes. I want things to go my way. You know? It's trouble. That definitely is trouble. If you were to change in accordance with my wishes, I could finally be happy. But if you don't, I give you trouble and I annoy you until you do. It's like, this is a recipe for war. There's a recipe for conflict. There's a recipe for drama, for pain, for tears, for bloodshed, everything that we don't want. So if you contemplate like this again and again, like bring it home, you cannot find what you're looking for out there, meaning in the senses. That includes what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you smell, what you taste, and what you think about. It won't work out. The sooner you realize that, and by realizing I mean like let it sink into your bones, you feel it with every cell, every fiber of your being. It's like, that's a silly investment, like the pebble thing. So you know it's stupid to invest in pebbles, like becoming the new currency. You know it to such an extent you wouldn't even think about it. Like seriously, think about it, consider it. But it's hard because we've all grown up learning that happiness is out there. You just must consume it. And then, everything will be fine somehow. So it's deep in our nervous system, the idea that, you can find happiness in the senses. It's very enticing. I would constantly tell myself, over and over again, also this is one reason, this is a secret reason why I give these, discourses or teachings or whatever, because it reminds me of these kind of things. Otherwise, I'm prone to forgetting, easy to forget. So I'm very thankful for you guys because you give me the opportunity to remember, actually the sense thing doesn't really work at all. And the more I hammer that home, the more I talk about it, the more I reflect on it, the less interested I am in these things. And the less interested I am, the less it disturbs me when I sit down and meditate. So now when thoughts about stuff arise, when sensuality arises within me, I'm just like, I see through you. I understand what you want and what you are and what this is. So no thanks. I'm not blinded by that so much anymore. That's the effect of contemplating, reflecting on these things often. There's this story where the Buddha was challenged by an evil entity. Before he reached enlightenment, he was kind of tempted and challenged by Mara. And one of these temptations was that Mara sent his 3 daughters to tempt the Buddha into giving up his spiritual search, his ascetic lifestyle. So he sent this, because Mara is kind of like a godly, like a deity. So his daughters are absolutely stunning, like otherworldly stunning. Like no man in this world could resist. There's no way. So he sends his 3 daughters to the Buddha to tempt the Buddha and see if he can get him that way, And it said that the Buddha kind of fast forwarded in his mind. So if I were to go with them, if I follow their call, then what would happen? And so he forwards in the future and he sees how their bodies, in front of him, he sees how their bodies age and eventually fall into the ground and decay as a corpse and sink into the ground as a skeleton. And he sees that fast forward. He's looking into the future. So, okay, if I go there, what will I get? It is old age, illness, death, loss, sorrow, etc., etc. Do I want that? No. So it's this fast forward looking into the future that helps a lot. You sit and you meditate, and you have all kinds of ideas. Oh, I'm going to... Okay, think fast forward. Think further than you would, not just, and then I have the job, and then I'll be happy. Then I'll keep going. And then I have to get up every morning, and then it'll get boring after a while, and then I will have trouble with the people that I'm working together with. And then this will happen, and then I will lose that, and I will have to pay back, and it just keeps going. See that, look at the truth. And as the more you see what is actually happening, rather than seeing this kind of idealized, filtered version of life, you want to see what is actually really happening. And then you lose your interest in it because you see through the deception. And we can all do that. You can all see through deception. You know when you're lying to yourself, right? You know it. Just see it instead of just brushing over it. See it. Stay with it. Let it have an impact on your heart. And you will see, oh man, I shouldn't be doing that. Or I shouldn't be chasing that because it's not really of lasting value. Sometimes if you're angry, right, you have a conversation with someone, it's angry conversation, you're fighting with someone, maybe your spouse, you're fighting with your spouse, and then you have an opportunity to say this thing, see, I told you. And you're actually right with what you're saying. You have the real point, the logical conclusion. And you could just go, boom, see, I told you. It could shut up the other person. And in your mind, it kind of plays out like that. So if I say this right now, the other person will definitely shut up. And not only will they shut up, but they will look upon me like, oh, how stupid have I been? I'm so sorry, honey, for saying these stupid things. Oh, of course you were right all along. Oh my goodness, can I make you some lunch? I'm so sorry. Something like that. That's how it plays out in our head, yeah? And so this is sensuality. It pulls you then into saying that thing. And instead of getting all this, oh my God, I'm so sorry, let me worship you, you get a very heavy response back. I don't know, like really bad things can happen in these heated moments. She gets up, storms out of the house, gets into the car, drives away without telling you anything. 4 p.m., hours later, police calls your house. Are you Mr. So-and-so? We are very, very sorry to have to tell you that your wife died in a car accident. And only then in retrospect, you're like, oh God. But in your mind, it played out so differently, right? So can you follow the call of your mind? Is it trustworthy? Does it really deserve your trust? Really? Ask yourself. Answer it as truthfully, as sincerely as you possibly can. And you'll find it's a tough one. You can't really actually nail down your mind as being a very truthful informant. It'll constantly lead you into all kinds of things. But the one thing it doesn't really lead you into is contentment and happiness and peace. Leads you all around the place though.
So change of environment won't help.
Okay, so you because I've said the environment is not it, right? This is not going to give you what you're looking for. So you follow a change of environment is therefore not making a difference. No, actually it does a lot. Yes. And also, and even more important than the environment is your company, the people you spend time with. This comes first. It's the most important one. Then the environment. The way you can think of it is actually the environment and people around you do not give you happiness, but they may inspire you to actually attain it. So, good company inspires you to do the work it takes on yourself to actually transcend your own misery and your own suffering and end up being happy and content. That can be done by the environment. So it's kind of like an inspiration and, a helping. What's the word? A helping condition. Let's say that. Not the direct cause. The difference between cause and conditions. While conditions are causes, they're not the direct cause of something, but they may nourish it and feed it. Like the direct cause of a plant would be its seed. And contributing factors, conditions would be fertile ground, like soil, good water, sunlight. And having all that together, it helps the seed to grow. If that is not there, if there's no water, no fertile ground, the seed can't grow, even though it's there. So it's very important, actually, environment. And that's why people, for example, go into a monastery or go on retreats, limit their distractions, design their environments in a way that is inspiring practice, like having your little meditation corner and lighting an incense, having rituals, these kind of things, very important. But then don't misunderstand, they will not give you what you finally are looking for. That only comes from within yourself. If you're in an environment that is constantly pulling on your heartstrings, like in an abusive relationship, let's say your wife doesn't want you to meditate. Every time you sit down and meditate, she turns on the vacuum cleaner and she's like, what are you wasting your time for? This is bullshit. Stop doing this. Do something useful. Something like that, right? Like, you won't attain in an environment like this. You can think as much as you want, like, oh yeah, my happiness is not dependent on the vacuum cleaning noise. My happiness is not dependent on my wife. But you're also, at the same time, you don't have the stability to actually, so that your words have weight. So you would go into the Himalayas and you spend a year in a cave and you actually attain very high level of meditation, let's say. Then you come back and your wife is vacuuming around you. You don't even notice her. You're just at peace. Yeah. But you've done a lot of work to get there. So then the environment really doesn't matter anymore. Good example would be I always mention him, the Vietnamese monk, Thich Quang Duc, who immolated himself. He burned to death as a sign for the entire world to pay attention to what was going on in Vietnam back in the time. It was like some oppressive government or something like this. And he actually made that sign, and it went all around the world. And because of that, Vietnam being in the attention of the entire world because of that incident, that regime came to an end. That monk, burning to death, sitting absolutely still, not moving a muscle, he sits like this, while engulfed in flames. And then he slowly, eventually after some time, he slowly lies down and dies in the flame. This is remarkable demonstration of truly the senses don't touch you anymore. You're beyond it. You've transcended the body and the mind. That would be proof. Same thing happened in Thailand recently. The monk was just burning down in his little kuti, in his little hut. He couldn't get out anymore. And the students could see him from outside through the window, and he would just sit down on his bed and just enter meditation and slowly burn to death like that. It's dramatic stuff, it's tough, it's hardcore, but it shows very clearly that there is such a possibility as being above the body, above the mind, outside of it. Not in it, not suffering it, not mixed up with it, as the Buddha calls it. If you have that, the environment truly doesn't matter. But if you don't have it yet, the environment matters a lot. Make sense? Cool. Any other questions? All right. Okay. Thank you very much too. It was nice having you. Have a good weekend, a good night.